perceived uncertainty in climate science masks reality. Catastrophe theory states, catastrophes happen when thresholds are crossed. Our reality is now one of increasingly unprecedented catastrophes that can only be stopped if we reverse warming. We're telling the untold story of what we have already lost, whose cause is mired in controversy of politics, the perceived debate, and innocent perception, but whose reality is clear.
The Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. The Russians are here, the Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. The Russians are here, stolen elections and bots in their farms, climbing gate to do us great harm. The Russians are here, the Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. Paranoia and fear, the things that they say, we believe both parties today. The Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. The Russians are here.
It started in the early teens. We crossed a sea level rise threshold where our beaches could no longer adapt. Now the beach is gone at high tide and the surf is in the dunes. The dunes in the distance there with the faces all angled alike, that's dune erosion. As the shore break erodes the foot of the dunes, giant sandbergs literally calve into the surf. The beach protects the dunes, and the dunes protect the mainland. In some places, the dunes have been completely eroded away.
Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. The Russians are here, the Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. The Russians are here. How to reverse is a trust to see. Brothers and sisters on the mother and feet. The Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. Time is now for all to see. Gather all. The Russians are here, the Russians are here, they've stolen our beer. The Russians are here.
Most tourist beaches have been artificially replenished with sand. The impacts are on the wilderness beaches. This erosion here is happening 20 to 40 times per year during king tide periods during the spring and fall when the sun and moon align just right for weeks on end. The beach and dune erosion is hard to see. Most folks never see the surf in the dunes. They only visit on the weekends. Half the time, high tide is at night. After a few days, the vertical dune cuts are softened by wind and sun, making them all but invisible to the casual eye. When folks do see the mayhem, it's often blamed on natural cycles. Many climate impacts are slow. Our attention spans and memories are short. This is climate pollution. It blows into one of the most remote places in the lower 48 and gets trapped by the mountains. It used to be so clear here, it gave you freezer brain. Sierra Casa Grande, the Big House, Chisos Mountains, Big Bend National Park. There's not many trees in the desert, but in the Chisos Mountains, there's a relic Ice Age forest that's just barely hanging on, at least until our climate changed. In forests across the world, warming has created an environment that is beyond the evolution of most species. The results are eco-regime change, otherwise known as extinction. These are mostly pinyon pine, killed by a series of extreme drought, insect, and disease attacks over the last 15 years. Each new drought kills more trees, and because the pinyon is the most drought-tolerant tree in North America, only scrub will regrow. About 30% of the trees in this forest have been killed. Tree kill like this is always difficult to see after the brown needles and leaves drop. The bones simply disappear back into what remains of the forest. Down in the desert, well, it gets even drier. Those species have evolved there can no longer cope. This is an ocotillo forest. The ocotillo are the tall, skinny sticks with the red blossoms on their tips. The ocotillo are being attacked by wood-boring beetles. All right, when it makes that noise, something ain't good.
See that wet spot?
And this is where I am. Yippee-o-ki-yay. That's never a good thing. Everybody watching? For my next trip, here, hold my beer and watch this.
Frickin' frack. We're gonna spend the night out here, aren't we? Yeah, we are.
Hold on just a minute.
I need a piece of 3/4 inch plastic pipe.
Weld her on to the end of that one.
What the hell is it? Oh, it's that cute. Blow it up on me out in the middle of the desert. Come on. Come off there, please. Come on. Hey, that's the finger that had the Band-Aid on it now. Come on, baby. That's not... Don't make me come over there. You can't see the rest of me. I'm here. Look. Of course, I'm I'm kneeling up in the engine compartment. God dang. Farts. Come on, cheap piece of plastic. At least the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour.
All right, can you go get me a little bitty screw on hose clamp? Plan B. Think somebody coming? They might have a little bitty screw on hose clamp. Yeah, right. This water's hot.
All right. I got it figured out. All I have to do is climb back up in here. See? reason I'm talking funny is because I have stainless steel wire in my mouth.
Wire it on to that other little cheap piece of plastic. Ow, ow, that was my knee. On the radiator. And I just keep on falling out in front of the truck. Alright. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for somebody to come along. Alright. Until my back uncramps. Hey, look at that. You know, it was 119 a little while ago. Anybody over there, maybe? That's Mexico over there. See it? Isn't that pretty? I'm gonna clean up. Don't go away.
The Ocotillo borers attack because the Ocotillo are stressed from drought, even in the desert. A desert is an ecosystem with threats like any other. On the edge, too much or too little environmental change and disaster results. The Ocotillo mortality is easy to recognize when they are laying flat on the ground. But the ones with the wildly curving branches are dead too. This is a creosote bush forest. Creosote doesn't like drought either. When stressed, they lose their lower limbs or just completely give it up. Even thorned cactus and other succulents are falling to climate change, but they can also freeze to death. Plants acclimatize to warmer winters, and when we get one of these polar vortexes that spins down really cold air, they get frostbit or simply freeze to death.
Storm brought down to the power lines. It's cold, cold, cold. Ain't supposed to be no storms like this. My bones is getting old. Blizzards and snow catastrophes. Person is warm in town till it warms above freezing now. The drifts they still do climb.
Warming has allowed native bark beetles to unnaturally overpopulate. Earlier spring and later fall creates a longer breeding season. Warmer winters kill fewer beetles, and drought weakens the forest. 96 million acres in North America have been mostly killed by the beetles, an area the size of New England, New York, and New Jersey combined. The attack is 20 times larger than anything known. It's mostly obscured in higher elevations or lesser visited areas where access is difficult. It's mired in confusion with natural cycles and fire suppression arguments. Giant sequoia's 2-foot thick bark resist most beetles. They just don't have a chance. The rest of the victims here have been cut to avoid tourist mortality. The 282,000-acre Thomas Fire in 2017 was the largest fire in modern times in California, until the 410,000-acre Ranch Fire burned in 2018. Just north of LA, the Thomas Fire resulted in the Montecito debris flows that killed 23 when a rain bomb burst over Santa Barbara County.
Ain't been no rain 200 days, heat wave, drought, and pain. If we don't get some relief soon, gonna burn like propane. The shadow is a dying, sun is set for hot. Never seen no shadow die before. Look what climate brought. Weather done gone wicked, ain't been like this before. They told us this would happen, child, the heavens done gone to
Catastrophes are caused when thresholds are passed. These unprecedented fires, floods, and insect attacks that are repeatedly setting new records, they are changing nature. They are changing the very fabric of our civilization and will become more extreme with further warming. If it were not for warming, these catastrophes would not have occurred.
smoke in the sky, wildfire coming this way. Better listen to the man, darling, take the baby away. 50 firemen on the street, the wife is struck with fear. Get the baby, get in the truck, and throw it in the gear. This climate change nonsense is real, won't leave nothing in its path. We done drove Mother Nature crazy, she's coming with her wrath.
The Tubbs Fire in 2017 in Santa Rosa was the most devastating wildfire in the modern era until 2018, when the Camp Fire in Paradise obliterated 80% of a town of 26,000 in 4 hours. These unprecedented catastrophes are not caused by excess forest debris that began with the 1940 Smokey Bear fire suppression campaign, Otherwise, they would have been happening long ago. They're caused by unprecedented fuel dryness and Santa Ana windstorms bigger than ever before that are a direct result of climate warming. Climate change is preventable. When are we going to start treating climate pollution like we treat any other pollution and remove it from our world? These oaks have been killed by drought. Drought that can continue with normal or even above normal precipitation because it's warmer, and evaporation increases non-linearly with warming. Our national treasures are dying in the heat. Environmental conditions are beyond the evolution of the ecology that is collapsing. These are bark beetle galleries where the young develop in the dying trees. The beetles bring with them a fungus that ensures the success of the attack. The National Park Service estimates that 2.4 million trees were killed by drought and beetles in Yosemite, and the attack continues today. The giant redwoods in northwestern California are as yet untouched by the beetle, drought, or fire. Sea level rise impacts in the Pacific Northwest are now appearing. These are ghost forests, killed by saltwater intrusion into their root systems.
Off the floor. Boy, I can tell our climate change, baby. Oh, this man looking out the door. Oh, you see how we're climbing down. Oh, send her on back home. Warm on, warm on. Oh, yeah.
The light gray-green trees among the redkill are aspens being attacked by leaf miners, another native insect forest mortality agent driven berserk because of warming. These are leaf miner galleries. The leaf miner is a little fly larvae that eats the chlorophyll between the upper and lower leaf surfaces. They don't kill outright, but after 3 or 4 years of having their leaves eaten completely out, the trees are so stressed they succumb to other attacks. central British Columbia all the way to the Arctic Circle. Virtually every leaf has had its chlorophyll mined out by billions of these little fly larvae.
Oh, now every evening. Oh, every evening, every evening, every evening. Oh, oh, it does us good when the sun goes down. It gets so cool out. Oh, now every evening. Oh, it does us good when the sun goes down. Yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. Oh, it feels so good when it gets cool outside now. Oh, wanna while away that frown.
This is the rapidly receding Bear Glacier in north-central coastal British Columbia. The two obvious trim lines, or extents of recent glaciation, where the trees are all scraped off, were from the Little Ice Age, which is the lowest line, and the previous glacial period that ended about 10,000 years ago, which is the highest line. From northern British Columbia all the way to the Arctic Ocean, permafrost collapse has begun in earnest. When we were here in 2007, we had to get the ice scientists at the University of Fairbanks to tell us where to find it. The literature said it was happening and the melt was significant, but we couldn't find any, or we couldn't find much. The ice scientists knew exactly where to point us, and sure enough, there it was. Today it's fairly common. This stretch of the Glen Springs Road in southeastern Alaska is heavily impacted from permafrost melt. The constant road repairs are easy to see, and I just can't imagine the fun those motorcycle riders are having. Now here's the thing. Those researchers have discovered that there are so many greenhouse gases coming from the melting permafrost that the entire state of Alaska, people and all, is now emitting more greenhouse gases than it is absorbing.
Oh, this is good when the sun goes down.
This is the Kennecott Glacier in southeastern Alaska near Mccarthy. It's a dirt glacier. So much melt has occurred that only rocks and glacial till remain on the surface. There's still ice underneath, but now the debris load insulates the glacier from even more melt. This is the Matanuska Glacier near Anchorage. It's receded about a mile since I was here in 2007.
Oh, tried everything, tried everything, tried everything. Oh, tried everything to fix this climate change. Tried everything, tried everything. Oh, now I'm gonna tell you. Gonna tell you what we're gonna do. What we're gonna do. What we're gonna do. Oh, gonna take that pollution, take it, pull right out of the sky. That's what we're gonna do. Wipe away that frown now.
Melt on Denali, the highest mountain in North America at 20,156 feet, is now 60 times more than it was in the pre-industrial era. The bus tour at Denali is highly recommended. You can only drive your private vehicle to mile 15 in the park. The rest is either by foot or in one of these buses with a guide. "20 years ago, there were no bushes this high up in Denali National Park. Warming allows trees and bushes to grow where they have not grown in modern times. Their leaves then stick up above the snow and soak up sunlight, creating more warmth and a feedback that allows more trees. This is the Hall Road, or the Dalton Highway, and it's 414 miles from Fairbanks to the oil fields on Prudhoe Bay on the edge of the Arctic Ocean. It was built to allow the construction of the Alaska Pipeline, and it's the only road to the Arctic Ocean in the U.S. Just north of Alaska in the Arctic Ocean, water temperatures are 14 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. This is some of the greatest warming in the world. Beetle kill and permafrost melt are common here. That's the Alaska Pipeline lurking among the stunted forest of the Great North. These are permafrost melt debris lobes. Furthest north, as far away from my loved ones as I care to get. About as far from home on this beautiful planet as anyone can be. Everywhere along this 16,000-mile journey, I have witnessed ecological collapse. We have changed nature with profound meaning for our civilization. For 30 years, climate scientists have been warning us this would happen. most meaningful thing you can do to help is to talk about it before it's too late. We have delayed 30 years and been warned and warned again. Please, make your voices heard.
Wintertime is coming, but it won't be cold. Wintertime is coming, but it won't be cold. In the land of heat and sun, in our time, coming of winter, so short but kind. The land of heat and sun, in our time, coming of winter, so short, so kind. Winter time, winter time. It won't be cold. Oh, it was foretold. In our time, in our time, undeniable societal deceit, unmistakable, unbearable heat. In our time, winter time, where did it go?